Для ударів справедливості по дружбі і вашої розмови і прохання до Дональда Трампа, чи з'явилося у нас і у вас відповідно більше важелів впливу на Віктора Орбана, зокрема щодо його зняття вето з відкриття переговорних класів?
Ми завжди підтримували дружбу між Україною і Угорщиною. А тепер існування дружби залежить від позиції Угорщини.
This is my video update on this Monday afternoon, August the 25th, coming to you from Larnaca, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Zelensky's threat to Hungary. So Zelensky was speaking at Ukraine's Independence Day event, and a reporter asked Zelensky about the Druzhba oil pipeline and the relationship between Hungary and Ukraine. And Zelensky's reply to this reporter was in the form of a threat and an ultimatum to Hungary. Basically, Zelensky told this reporter, or is telling Hungary that through the statement that if you want to continue to remain friends with Ukraine, and there's a play on words with Druzhba and friends, so I think this was a pre-planned question. This was all planted, this exchange with this reporter. He said, if you want to remain friends with Ukraine, Hungary, then you have to stop getting oil from the Druzhba. If not, then we're going to continue to go after the Druzhba. That was the threat and the ultimatum from Zelensky to Hungary. And let me read you the exact quote from the Green Goblin. At a press conference during Independence Day celebrations in Kiev on Sunday, a reporter asked Ukrainian leader Zelensky how the attacks relate to Hungary's opposition to Ukraine's EU and NATO ambitions. We have always supported friendship with Hungary, but now the very existence of this friendship depends on Budapest's position. Zelensky replied with a smile, playing on the pipeline's name. Yeah, he was smiling as he made this statement. That's why I say this was all planned out. This was a planted question and a pre-planned answer from Zelensky, a script. This was all scripted. So he's smiling as he's saying this to Hungary because he knows that Hungary is not going to do anything to Ukraine in retaliation. He knows this for whatever reason. And Hungary does have ways to retaliate. They could retaliate with electricity, for example. They supply electricity to Ukraine. So they do have ways to retaliate. They do have a certain amount of leverage over Ukraine. For example, Slovakia, they are saying that if the attacks on the Druzhba oil pipeline continue, then they may stop diesel going to Ukraine. And Slovakia is the number 2 supplier of diesel to Ukraine. But Zelensky knows that they're not going to retaliate. For whatever reasons, Hungary and Slovakia are not going to retaliate. They have not been allowed to retaliate, most likely by the United States, by the Trump administration is telling them not to do anything. Zelensky knows this, and he knows that he has the support of the collective West to go after the Druzhba oil pipeline. He knows that the globalist political elite are encouraging him, let's say, to go after the Druzhba oil pipeline. I mean, the EU is taking Zelensky's side in all of this for the most part. They're not supporting their own member state. Their own member state is being attacked, right? Their energy security is being attacked by a non-EU member state, and the EU is not doing anything to Ukraine. The same goes for NATO. What about Article 5 and all of that stuff? Hungary's energy security is being attacked by a non-NATO member, and NATO's not doing anything about it. So this upset Peter Sciarto, and he replied on X by saying, Zelensky used Ukraine's national holiday to threaten Hungary. We firmly reject the Ukrainian president's intimidation. We regard sovereignty and territorial integrity as fundamental values of international politics. That is why we respect every country's sovereignty and territorial integrity and expect the same in return. In recent days, Ukraine has carried out serious attacks against our energy supply. An attack on energy security is an attack on sovereignty. A war to which Hungary has nothing to do with can never justify violating our sovereignty. We call on Zelensky to stop threatening Hungary and to end the reckless attacks on our energy security. So for whatever reason, Ukraine is allowed to go after the Druzhba, and Hungary and Slovakia, in my opinion, have been told to not do anything, or at least do not retaliate with cutting off of electricity or anything like that. So that's why Zelensky can say these things, make these statements, these threats against Hungary with a smile, because he knows that for the moment, he is untouchable. I mean, when you think about it, Zelensky, he went to the United States. He went to the White House. He insulted Vice President Vance. He insulted President Trump. He insulted the office of the president, the United States of America. And yeah, Trump laid into him during that meeting. Trump went after him. But afterwards, a couple of weeks afterwards, the money and the weapons kept flowing, and Trump, he walked back everything that happened at the White House. And Zelensky, to this day, has never apologized for his behavior in the White House. So Zelensky knows that if he can do what he did to the President of the United States and still get money and weapons and still have Trump meeting with him and palling around with him, if he can go to the United States and insult the office of the president in that way and nothing happens to him, then what's a pipeline from Hungary? I mean, I can go after the Druzhba pipeline. They're not going to do anything to me over that. So anyway, that was Siarto's response to the statements from Zelensky. Not a very strong response from Siarto. Not strong at all. Slovakia's response was a little stronger, but of course they put the qualifier of may. We may cut off diesel. Maybe. But you're not. And we know you're not. So the foreign minister of Ukraine, he responded to Siarto by saying, I will reply in a Hungarian manner. You don't need to tell the Ukrainian president what to do or say and when. He is the president of Ukraine, not Hungary. Hungary's energy security is in your own hands. Diversify and become independent from Russia like the rest of Europe. Once again, the statement from Ukraine is destroy your economy, stop with the Druzhba, stop with the Russian cooperation on energy, destroy your energy security, destroy your Hungarian economy, and then we can be friends. But until you do that, well, we can go after the pipeline, right? That's basically what the foreign minister is telling Siarto, what the Ukrainian foreign minister is telling Siarto. And Peter Siarto replied to the Ukrainian foreign minister by saying, stop attacking our energy security. This is not our war. These are not very strong statements from Siarto. Not strong at all. Leave us alone. Leave us alone, Ukraine. It's not our war. And Ukraine is saying, we don't care. We don't care. Either you do as we tell you, and you stop with the cooperation with Russia, or we're going to continue to attack you. Your choice, Hungary. So anyway, that was the exchange between Hungary and Ukraine, the statements from the Green Goblin. And as I mentioned, yesterday was Independence Day for Ukraine, and everyone traveled to Kiev, or most everyone traveled to Kiev. Keith Kellogg was there, and he received a medal. He received the medal of Prince Yaroslav or something. I don't even know what the honor was. But anyway, the neutral mediator, known as Keith Kellogg, because he's the neutral mediator, he received a medal and an honor from the Green Goblin, the Prince Yaroslav Award or something like that. I think the defense minister of Sweden also got the same award. So yeah, that's Keith Kellogg, Trump's neutral negotiator, neutral envoy, getting an award from the Green Goblin. Job well done, Mr. Kellogg, in pushing your freeze plan. Job well done. So Mark Carney of Canada, the Prime Minister of Canada, he was in Kiev. He brought with him $2 billion. He's going to give Zelensky $2 billion in weapons and stuff like that. This is on top of the $20 billion that Canada has already handed over to Ukraine. And then Carney, he was asked by a reporter about security guarantees and Canadian boots on the ground. And Carney did not rule it out. He did not rule out Canadian troops in Ukraine. He said, if a peace deal is reached, he said, if there is some sort of a peace deal, and if Ukraine's military is built up, he said, and we have security guarantees in this peace deal, then he said that Canada would consider boots on the ground in Ukraine. I thought that Ukraine had 35 bilateral security guarantees signed, right? Remember that time about maybe a year ago where there was like a time period of, say, 6 months, a time block of like 6 months where Zelensky was going around the collective West, just signing security guarantees with all of the countries of the collective West, including Canada. I thought he already has a security guarantee with Canada. He has one with the United States. He has one with Poland. He has one with the Baltic states. I think he has one with Greece. He signed a security guarantee with every freaking country in the collective West, or most every country in the collective West, with the exception of Hungary and Slovakia, right? So why does he need more security guarantees? I thought you already had this signed and sealed, man. You need more security guarantees? Are you telling me that the security guarantees that you signed about a year and a half ago was what? Was all show? It was all media spin? Yeah, it was all media spin. Anyway, that is the statement from Carney. Canadian boots on the ground, everybody. If there is some sort of a peace deal, then Canada will be part of the coalition of the willing and will send troops to Ukraine, as well as another $2 billion. That's already been given to Zelensky, another $2 billion. On top of the $20 billion, man. Norway's prime minister was also in Kiev, by the way. He was also there, as was the vice chancellor of Germany, the finance minister and vice chancellor of Germany, Lars Klingbeil. He also arrived in Kiev. He traveled with carrying a very big bag. I don't know if those were overnight clothes or something else in that big bag. Probably just his overnight clothes. I don't know. But anyway, he brought with him a huge bag. And he also had a message for Putin and for Russia. His message was that Germany's support for Ukraine will never end. It will never, ever, ever end. He said that Germany's support for Ukraine won't weaken. I think those are the exact words. It will never weaken. Merz, he is saying that the welfare state is not sustainable. That is what Merz is now telling the German people. According to the Telegraph, welfare state is not sustainable, says German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, calls for fundamental reassessment of benefits system and insists he will not be scared away from making necessary reforms. That's right. Welfare system, not sustainable. Money to the Green Goblin, sustainable, as long as it takes. Man, what a message from Merz, huh? We don't care about the German people. We don't care about the Germany's welfare. We don't care about pensions, healthcare, any of that stuff. It's just not sustainable, man. But money to Ukraine, money to the military, sustainable, very sustainable. Of course, Germany's going to go into debt. They're going to start borrowing for Project Ukraine. But still, it's money going to Project Ukraine. So Lavrov was on NBC. I talked about this a couple of days ago, but the full interview was broadcast on Sunday. And man, did Lavrov put the hammer down on NBC. I am telling you, what's her name? Kirsten Welker? She was trying to go after Lavrov. She was trying to outsmart the Russian foreign minister. And man, he just completely shut her down. Every attempt she made to try and get one over Lavrov, he was having none of it. I mean, you could really see the difference in intellect, in IQ, in the exchange between the two, right? You could tell who was the smarter of the two, and it wasn't NBC. Let's just put it that way. But she was shilling hard for Project Ukraine. I'm telling you, she was really supporting the Zelensky regime as she was throwing these questions at Lavrov. And one of the interesting things that Lavrov said in the interview was about negotiating with Zelensky and his legitimacy. And he drew a distinction between speaking with Zelensky in some sort of a negotiation or talks and actually getting to a point where the legitimate leader of Ukraine is going to have to sign a document. And Lavrov, Kirsten Welker wasn't understanding this. I mean, she couldn't understand this concept, but Lavrov had to spell it out to her in a very simple way that she could understand. So Lavrov basically told her, look, we'll talk to the Zelensky regime if we have to. If need be, we'll talk to the Zelensky regime, but we see them as the regime. They're the regime right now in power in Kiev. But when we get to a point where we have to actually sign a document, a legally binding document through the negotiation process, well, then Zelensky can't sign that document because according to the Ukraine constitution, this is what Lavrov was telling her, according to the Ukrainian constitution, he's not the legitimate leader of Kiev. He's not the legitimate president of Kiev. And so we're going to need to know who is the person or the people that will be able to sign a document which will be legally binding. That was basically what Lavrov was telling her. She couldn't understand it. She actually ended the discussion, that line of questioning, by just saying, well, Zelensky is the democratically elected president of Ukraine. That's what she said in a very low, subdued voice. Well, Zelensky is the democratically elected president of Ukraine, which also shows that Kirsten Welker has not done her research on what is going on in Ukraine. If she had done her research, maybe like a 1-minute Google search, she would have known that Zelensky called off the elections about a year ago, more than a year ago. But she didn't do her research.
He is ready to meet. Let's keep moving. But no, we cannot meet just for him to have a picture and to say that now I am legitimate. Legitimacy is another matter, because irrespective of when this meeting might take place, and it must be very well prepared, the issue of who is going to sign the deal on Ukrainian side is a very serious issue. So you're saying you don't see President Zelensky as the legitimate leader of Ukraine? President Putin doesn't recognize him as the legitimate leader of Ukraine? No, we recognize him as de facto head of the regime. And in this capacity, we are ready to meet with him. But when it comes to signing legal documents, no, you want to have the entire picture, just part of it, which suits you. When we come to a stage when you have to sign documents, we would need a very clear understanding by everybody that the person who is signing is legitimate. And according to the Ukrainian constitution, Mr. Zelensky is not at the moment.
Okay, well, he is the democratically elected president. Mr. Foreign Minister, let's keep moving.
She also asked Lavrov about the attack on that Flex company, Flex Ltd. in Mukachevo. I talked about this in a video update from about a week ago, where Russia obliterated, as Trump likes to say, obliterated this facility, which, according to Russian military intel, was making chips and component parts for Ukrainian drones. It was part of the Ukraine war machine, and this is an American company, or it's affiliated with an American company, this facility. And she was asking Lavrov, how dare you attack an American company? Or did you attack an American company? And how dare you go after an American company? This is like a slap in the face to Trump. As you're negotiating with Trump, you guys hit a facility which has a connection to this Flex Ltd, this American company. And this American company was just making electronic equipment that was not related to the military industry, right? Innocent consumer electronic equipment and component parts. That's what this company was doing in this Mukachevo region. And Lavrov, he fired back at Kirsten Welker by saying, look, let's not be naive here. We know what this facility was doing. And just because a facility or a company that owns a facility has some U.S. investment or U.S. backing, it doesn't mean that we're going to lay off of that facility. If it is involved in military production and military activity, we're going to hit that facility. We don't care if it has U.S. money or not. Let me read you what Lavrov said to NBC. I understand that some people are really naive, and when they see a coffee machine in the window, they believe this is the place where coffee machines are produced. Good answer from Lavrov. She also asked Lavrov about the USSR shirt, the CCCP shirt that he was wearing in Alaska. And she was very unhappy with the fact that Lavrov decided to wear this shirt. She saw it as, NBC saw it as a giveaway from Russia, as a sign from Russia that they want to recreate the Soviet Empire because you wore a USSR, a CCCP shirt. That definitely means that you want to recreate the Soviet Empire. So Lavrov answered her by saying, we were born in the Soviet Union. Vladimir Putin has repeatedly said that those who do not regret the collapse of the USSR have no heart, but those who want its restoration have no head. This is absolutely true. She couldn't understand these concepts. You could tell that these were concepts that were just above her pay grade, right? She couldn't quite understand. Where is this man coming up with this stuff? I don't understand what he's trying to tell me. We're supposed to tear down statues, right? We're supposed to destroy our history and memory hole our history, right? What's he talking about, this Lavrov guy? Oh, Lavrov also said that the EU is pushing for war, and he said that Russia believes that Trump wants peace. That is what Lavrov said. The reaction of these European representatives and what they were doing indicates that they don't want peace. They say we cannot allow the defeat of Ukraine. We cannot allow Russia to win, Lavrov said. Meanwhile, the minister noted that U.S. President Donald Trump has opted for another approach. We respect President Trump because President Trump defends American national interests, he said, adding that the U.S. leader seems to respect Russian President Vladimir Putin for doing the same for his country. So that was the interview, some of the highlights of the interview between Lavrov and NBC. It was a complete victory for Lavrov. No way could you have seen that interview and have said that Kristen Welker got one on Lavrov, that she managed to outsmart the Russian foreign minister. You could tell that she was completely confused with the logic that Lavrov was spitting out. Anyway, that was the NBC story. And Trump, he actually posted, since we're talking about NBC, he actually posted on Truth Social that NBC and ABC and CBS, that they should be paying millions for the privilege to be using the broadcast license and the airwaves that they have. He said, "Why is it that ABC and NBC fake news, two of the absolute worst and most biased networks anywhere in the world?" Okay, so I said CBS News, ABC and NBC. Why is it that ABC and NBC, fake news, two of the absolute worst and most biased networks anywhere in the world, aren't paying millions of dollars a year in license fees? They should lose their licenses for their unfair coverage of Republicans and/or conservatives, but at a minimum, they should pay up big for having the privilege of using the most valuable airwaves anywhere at any time. Crooked journalism should not be rewarded. It should be terminated. Quite a statement from Trump, huh? So Israel, they hit another hospital in Gaza, the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis. They hit this hospital and they killed 11 civilians as well as 4 journalists in this strike on the Nasser Medical Complex. Now, what happened here, and this was all caught on video, what happened is that there was, my understanding of this was that a Reuters journalist was killed in the first strike, and then the rescue teams, the ambulances, the rescue teams, as well as 3 other journalists, they went to recover the body of the Reuters journalist, and Israel hit the hospital again. I think the first strike was with drones and the second strike was with missiles, or maybe they were both with drones. I'm not quite sure. But it was a double tap. It was a double tap hit. And they killed the first Reuters journalist, and then the other 3 journalists went to recover the body of the journalist, and this is caught on video, and they hit the hospital again. Today, Israel has killed 4 journalists in its attack on Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, bringing the total to 244 since October 2023. And the journalists were from Reuters, Al Jazeera, Independent Arabia, and AP, as well as NBC. Israel hit civil defense teams as they tried to recover the body of Reuters journalist Hossam al-Masri, killed in the Nasser hospital attack. Yeah, a double tap strike. And so the IDF, they have issued a statement, and this is what they say. The IDF confirms the strike in the area of Nasser Hospital, instructs an investigation, and says the IDF regrets any harm to uninvolved individuals and does not target journalists as such. This is from I-24. That was their response to this double tap strike. And the horrific part to all of this is as I said, it's on video. Obviously, I can't play the video, but if you go on social media, you'll see what happened. So let's do some more news and we can wrap up this video. Here's a title from Politico. Meet Flamingo, the missile that brings European Russia within Kiev's range. You don't need a scary name for a missile that can fly 3,000 kilometers, says one of the Flamingo's developers. Yeah, the Europeans, they are salivating at the prospects of having a missile, in this case, the Flamingo, having a missile that can hit Moscow and St. Petersburg. They're dreaming of this. The Europeans. This is coming from Politico.eu, which is a super supporter of the European Union. They write a lot of propaganda for the European Union. Politico.eu. Anyway, that's the title from them. Putin is going to be flying to China next week, and he will be staying in China for 4 days, man. 4 days in China. He is going to be attending the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Summit. He will be attending that. And in September, in early September, I believe September 3rd or September 2nd, he will be attending the events in China for World War II. So he will be there as well. So I believe he's going at the end of the month, the last day of August, and he's going to be staying in China until September 4th, I think. So that's a long time for Putin to go on a trip. I think this is going to be his longest trip that he's taken, at least since the special military operation. 4 full days in China. So should we do a clown world? Wrap this thing up. More from Politico. We got more from Politico. Actually, this is from El Mundo, but Politico translated it. So Ursula von der Math, she wrote an op-ed in the Spanish publication El Mundo, and in this op-ed, she tried to explain her trade deal with the United States, right? It was a good trade deal. It was the right thing to do. It wasn't a bad trade deal, everybody. As Ursula von der Math, I made the right decision with that trade deal by giving away everything to Trump, by promising 1.3, 1.4 trillion to the United States in energy, in investments, in weapons. I made a great trade deal. 15% tariffs on European products and 0% tariffs for US products. Anyway, she used this op-ed to say what a great strategy in agreeing to this trade deal with the United States. Moscow and Beijing would have cheered EU-US trade war, von der Leyen says. European Commission chief uses op-ed in Spanish media to defend her Trump deal, pitching it as stability over escalation and brushing off criticisms that Brussels caved. Yeah, we didn't cave. We didn't cave. We cut off our nose despite our face, right? We made a terrible trade deal. We made the worst trade deal in all of history. I agreed to the worst trade deal in all of history in order to prevent China and Russia from cheering. There it is. There it is, everybody. In order to prevent Russia and China from cheering, I decided to make the worst freaking trade deal ever made in the history of the world. Take that, Russia and China, you see? You're not going to get the opportunity to cheer. Here you go, Trump. Here's $1.4 trillion. Take it. Oh, man. So Merz is, the rumor is, according to Spiegel, that Merz is thinking of nominating von der Math to be the next president of Germany in the 2027 elections. They get promoted. They get promoted. They get moved to a different position. They never get fired. They never get fired. They never face any consequences for their actions or for their stupid decisions. Nope. They just go from one cushy job in the globalist architecture to another cushy job in the globalist architecture. And so Ursula, she recently was appointed the Commission president, just last year, right? And I think it's a 5-year term. She likes to say she was elected. She was appointed. She was appointed as the EC president. But there are a lot of calls. This reporting from Spiegel might actually make sense. It might actually be true because there are a lot of calls to be rid of Ursula. A lot of people want to see Ursula go. A lot of it is due to Pfizergate, right? The missing text messages with Burla. And a lot of it has to do with the US-EU trade deal. So a lot of people are upset with Ursula. They're saying that she's incompetent and that she's screwing everything up and it's time for her to go. And she's actually faced a no confidence vote. She won that vote, but still, she did face a no confidence vote. And so what they may be doing, the globalists, what they may be planning is look, let's just get someone else to take over for Ursula in 2027, someone who's approved by us, by the globalist political elite, someone that's already pre-approved. Let's just get them in there for Ursula in 2027. And then we'll slide Ursula out of the European Commission and just move her into the presidency of Germany. There you have it. We have a slot open in the German president. She can slide in there. And then we can take someone to take over her spot, and we can find someone to take over her spot in the EC, someone who's already vetted and pre-approved. What's up, my friend? Vetted and pre-approved by the globalist elite. So that's what's going on here. I kind of believe this report. I can definitely believe this reporting. I can see this happening. Anyway, that's all I've got to say for today. Man, my Monday videos, for some reason, I always feel like my Monday videos are just not good, man. I don't have a good vibe on Monday. Anyway, guys, that's the video. TheDuran.locals.com. We're on Telegram. We are on Rockfin. We are on X. Where are we? What did I find here? We're on X and we're on Rumble and we're on Telegram. You can find us on the Duran shop. There's a link in the description box down below. Take care.